Thank you very much, Tarana, for talking to us.
Yes.
An honor.
I'm happy to be here.
Me Too went viral in 2017, but you had actually started it 12 years ago. Could you tell us how it all began?
Wow, it began in Selma, Alabama, which is a historic city in the United States that's known mostly for the voting rights movement. But I'd been living and working there, and I co-founded a youth organization with a friend. And while we were doing that work, it became really evident that there was really rampant sexual violence happening among the young people who we were working with. They were having various experiences with it, from some of them less violent and some very violent. And I'm a survivor of sexual violence, and so that resonated with me immediately. And so this idea emerged of, how do we connect with them? How do we show empathy for where they are, and also speak healing into their lives? And how do we let them know and understand that healing is possible, and that they can play a role in interrupting sexual violence in their community? And that came out through, one, the words Me Too were words that I wish I had said to another young person several years before, and I missed that opportunity. And it was about me stepping out of my comfort zone to use and center my own story as a way to show empathy for other people.
One challenge in fighting gender violence is the stigma placed on the victims.
Yeah.
The shame, the feeling of isolation, of guilt maybe even. How do you see the importance of having somebody else saying, hey, that happened to me too, to encourage?
Oh God, it's like shining a light. It's like a light that you turn on. It's like, you know how people say you can't unring the bell? Sexual violence is an odd thing, because it's at the same time that it is deeply pervasive and it is insidious and it touches every demographic that we know and is widespread, it is also deeply isolating, right? And these two things operate at the same time. It touches so many people, but the people that it touches feel completely isolated. And so shame and doubt and guilt, all of those things fester and grow in darkness. And so what having something like Me Too does is bring light to that situation. And once the light is shined on it, the shame has no place to go. Like, I'm embarrassed because I'm the only one. I feel a sense of shame because, look at me, I'm some odd person that just this thing happened to. And then you say, no, but it happened to me too. And I'm like, oh my God, did it? Did you feel this? Did you feel that? And you say, yeah, I felt all of those things. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm not crazy. And then another person says, well, wait, it happened to me too. And then it goes on. And you're like, I feel community, right? Healing has to happen in community. And that's what happens when you say Me Too. We are galvanizing and building a community around the world.
Me Too has already had a huge impact, a concrete impact, impact in raising awareness, but it had also encountered criticism.
Oh,
people
absolutely.
Saying it went too far, people misunderstanding it as a movement trying to take men down. Mm-hmm. How to react to that and keep the focus of the discussion?
You know, I think a part of the reason why I'm here in a place like this festival is because it's going to take people who have control of the narrative for us to wrestle the narrative back. One of the biggest challenges of our work right now is wrestling this narrative back and making sure that people understand that the narrative that exists now, that says that it's a witch hunt, that says that it's gone too far, all of those things are counterproductive to the work that actually has to happen. And so what I say to those people is that 9 months ago, millions and millions of people raised their hand in unison around the world and said Me Too, and their hands are still up. Because we have been focused on everything else but them. And so those people are still standing there saying, no, but me too. This happened to me too. And we're like, but what about this person? And how will they get their jobs back? And but how are we gonna date now? And I don't know how to hire women now, right? And we're dealing with all of these other peripheral things, and people are just like, but I am in pain. What are you gonna do for me? And I think that after a time, some time will pass and it will settle. And we will be able to have nuanced conversations about it, where we understand that sexual violence happens on a spectrum, and that we expect accountability to be on a spectrum. But let's do it with some integrity, and let's do it with keeping at the center of it the people who have the most pain. As long as we do that and operate with integrity, we'll figure it out. But we just need the time and space to do it without people jumping on and say, this is too much, this is da, 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 da. It's terrible.
As you said, gender violence happens everywhere around the world, and I've actually read a powerful statement of yours saying that if gender violence was seen as a disease, global society would address it in a completely different way. How could you comment on the perception of gender violence, of what gender violence is?
It has become so normalized, and we are so socialized to accept the ways in which gender-based violence happens that we don't see. Do you understand that in 24 hours after Me Too went viral, 12 million people said Me Too on just Facebook, just Facebook posts. That is indicative of just how deep and insidious this problem is. We have a global problem. It is sexual harassment in the workplace. It is sexual harassment in our communities. It is child sexual abuse. It is harassment of disabled. Like, it is so many things that fall under this category, but it all produces the same type of trauma.
This year you won the Ridenauer Prize for Courage. Congratulations. How much courage do you think it's still gonna take women to end gender violence, and what message do you have for the ones out there struggling to find it?
I don't think it's the courage of women that's gonna end gender-based violence. I think it's the courage of humanity. Women are out here being very courageous every day, and survivors of sexual violence are out here being very courageous every day. And I don't even mean by speaking out, I mean by living. Sometimes our very existence takes courage. And so it is going to take the people outside of the survivors, the circle of survivors, to have the courage. Like, people have to be courageous enough to think differently, and then courageous enough to act differently, courageous enough to unlearn what they know. There's going to take an enormous amount of courage from people other than women, other than survivors, who will say, you know what, even though this doesn't touch my life, it didn't affect my life, I don't want to live in a world where this exists.
Will you ever stop?
No. No. I mean, I think in your life, there's a quote from Mark Twain that says the two most important times in your life is the day that you were born and the day that you figure out why. And the day that I figured out why, because the question that I was asking most of my life is, why did this happen to me, right? There had to be a reason. It just didn't make sense that the God I knew would allow me to have the kind of pain and suffering that I had endured for no reason. And so the day, whatever time it was, whatever moment that I put together, that trauma and that pain and that weight that I've been carrying could be part of my purpose. Yeah, I don't have to stop. It's just who I am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.